and the UK-led alliance in Afghanistan is also causing many casualties there, not just from them, but also their agents in the region.
There's no doubt that some of your statements about the British troops will have upset mourning families and could have actually led to a rise in patriotism on the streets of the UK, because people in towns like Wootton Bassett feel that you have said you represent Islam in some form or another, and therefore Islam is against the British troops, the people that they're grieving for. You've actually led to a rise in right-wing patriotism in the United Kingdom. That's counter to protecting Muslims in the UK, surely.
Well, no, ultimately, you see, I'm not a British Muslim. I'm not a Muslim simply living in the UK. I'm a Muslim, part of the global Muslim community worldwide. We are 1.5 billion Muslims around the world. Therefore, my actions here will have an impact not only on the Muslim community and the wider public here, but it will also have reverberations around the world. The amount of support that we've had from Muslims overseas and from Muslims in Europe and Asia is vast. People agree with us wholeheartedly. You know, I've never been inundated with calls to join our organization, even from non-Muslims who say, look, we completely agree with you. We believe there are atrocities taking place and the government don't want to engage. They want to stifle debate. So I believe that the Stop the War Coalition...
Really?
Inundated, absolutely. I mean, I could bring lists of, emails and texts which are supporting us, saying that they want to join our organization. We've never had, in fact, non-Muslims keen to join Islam for UK or al-Muhajiroun until this particular episode. I think the people are disgusted with the government, the fact that they want to ban people who oppose them, the fact that the people merely wanted to have a peaceful procession. And I think that what you actually read in the tabloids and you see from the media who are very biased is not the true picture. The true picture is that if I go onto the streets and I talk to normal shopkeepers and I talk to the average Joe Blogs, if you like, in Britain, he will agree with much of what I have to say. He may not agree.
I don't for a second. You cannot put that as a statement. You have to qualify that.
You have to live my life, and you have to see that I do go out into the public. I don't need a bodyguard because there is a lot of support out there from the Muslims.
You're telling me the average person on the British street would be happy to see the Buckingham Palace forcefully turned into a mosque and living under Sharia law? That's
but you were talking just here about Wootton Bassett. I can explain to them about Buckingham Palace, but whoever I've met and I've explained to them why we were doing a procession in Wootton Bassett, and I've explained to them about the lies of the government and the fact that they're running roughshod over their so-called freedom and democracy, they have agreed with me. They may not agree about Wootton Bassett, but when I've explained to them, look, this was necessary in order to portray the true costs of the conflict in Afghanistan, they've understood, and I think many people will agree with me.
Let's talk a little bit about freedom of speech in the United Kingdom, because despite the fact that your group is now banned, you have never yourself served any time in a British prison or been arrested or charged with any crime.
I've been charged as well. Yeah.
But you've never served any time in a British prison, and you do have the right to exercise freedom of speech, and yet you object to so much of the legal system in the United Kingdom that protects your right to freedom of speech.
Well, I think you want to stop taking your information really from organisations and platforms who have an agenda against us. I've been arrested several times. I have been in police cells as well, and I've been charged and taken to court a few times for the things that I believe. But that's not the point. The point is that many of the people that work with us and many of the Muslims in the community are languishing in prison for merely holding placards. You know, we have people...
But you've never been convicted, so therefore justice prevailed.
But that's not the point.
Justice prevailed.
No, that's not the point though, is it? Look, I mean, you can't say, for example, that if there was a black person, for example, in South Africa and he wasn't arrested, therefore there's no apartheid. That's a ridiculous statement. The fact is the Muslims are living as second-class citizens, that we are subject to stop and search and draconian laws, that many of our compatriots are in prison for merely holding placards. There's one man called Khalid Al-Fawaz, was arrested in August 1998. He's been in prison for over 12 years without any charge or trial. That is an injustice and that is oppression. If I have the fortitude to speak about that, I don't need to be in his shoes to talk about my Muslim brothers and the oppression that they're facing. Who said that?
The issues of freedom of speech are represented by many organisations around the UK. Who do you think that you represent in the United Kingdom? Who are you giving a voice to?
You know, I don't believe in the concept of freedom of expression. I don't believe in democracy. I don't believe in secularism or liberalism. I believe these are idols that the people are worshipping nowadays, taking them away from worshipping our Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I believe that sovereignty and supremacy belongs to God. But I will function within the realms of their so-called freedom to expose their own fallacies. These are fallacies, because on the one hand, people have the right to insult the Prophet. It's open season to insult Islam and Muslims. You saw it with the cartoon demonstration, you saw it with Geert Wilders, you see it as well on the streets with the demonstrations outside Haram Mosque.
What would you do to people who printed cartoons?
But when we simply propose, and I didn't even contact the police, a procession through Wootton Bassett, which is supposed to be my so-called right within British law, suddenly the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister are saying within one day of me announcing it that they want to ban our organisation, they want to ban the procession. That is the reality of the democracy and freedom in this country. If you differ with the government, they will change the freedom into dictatorship.
And what was your group's reaction to the Danish cartoons that caused offence?
Well, of course, there was a demonstration outside, the Danish embassy and many other embassies.
Were you part of those demonstrations?
I went to the demonstration, indeed.
What sort of statements were your group making?
There were many statements, but the thing is, you see, even under the law, which the British and the Europeans
uphold, which you don't respect,
which I don't respect at all, but I'm just showing the hypocrisy of it. Under the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has a right to protest and have a demonstration. I'm a lawyer, I'll tell you about it. And in that law, it says you have the right as well to be provocative. Now, those statements and those placards, yeah, fair enough, they were provocative, and they said many things, but that was in the anger of the people, and they were doing something peacefully on the streets. Those type of placards, by the way, are very common in demonstrations from Muslims over the decades, and even from non-Muslims. There was a demonstration, for example, when Ian Huntley came out of prison once, and they said, kill Ian Huntley. In the Oxford University demonstrations, I believe, against fox hunting, people were saying, kill or murder Tony Blair. Nobody was arrested, because there's another law for non-Muslims. Muslims are treated as second-class citizens. They're guilty until they can prove themselves innocent.
Why do you choose not to work in the UK? Is that
I told you I don't work.
You're called an ex-solicitor.
I think you need to take your information from Muslims as opposed to the Sun or the Daily Mail.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you do in the United Kingdom.
No, I do something, and I don't want to discuss it. That's my personal business. I don't want to discuss my employment. I do something, and that's why I'm not claiming job seekers allowance. But what I do in my personal business, which is private, is not for the media, because I don't want them to, if you like, investigate my private affairs.
The media has, however, said that you are living off benefits. If that's not correct, you can say that here.
No, it's irrelevant. The Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, takes child benefit, and he takes child tax credit. So why can't I take the same thing? You know, the Prophet said, in his time, in the time of the Prophet, they used to have a tribal system where they gave money to the Muslims, and Umar bin al-Khattab, radiallahu anhu, he said, in fact, to the Prophet, he said, Ya Prophet of Allah, he said, they give us money, but we attack their system. He said, to whom does the money belong? The wealth belongs to Allah. He said, take it. He said, but don't lie and don't cheat. I don't lie, I don't cheat. If I'm given wealth, I will take it. It's allowed for me, it's halal for me, Islamically. What is not allowed, though, is for organizations like Quilliam Foundation, the MCB, to take money from the government in order to have an agenda against Islam and Muslims. This is completely haram. I will function within the realms of what is lawful for me Islamically, and it's lawful for me Islamically to take money if I'm given to it, as long as I don't lie or cheat.
But let's go back to the MCB, because they did give a press release referring to your actions as Islam for UK, and the Muslim Council of Britain do represent a great number of Muslims in the United Kingdom, and they have said of your organisations, the only beneficiaries of this tiny band of misfits are bigots and Islamophobes with an insatiable appetite to demonise Muslims. How do you react to that?
Well, you know, the Muslim Council of Britain, first of all, don't represent anyone apart from themselves. They are a government platform, like the Quilliam Foundation, paid by them in order to have an agenda.
Say the same about your organisation.
Well, we don't take any money from the government in order to have an agenda against Islam or Muslims. But they take money from the government, millions of pounds, in order to silence the voice of Islam. And at the end of the day, even if they did represent the majority, what we as Muslims are supposed to do is represent the Islamic viewpoint. And the Prophet said very clearly, he said, out of every 1,999 will be in the hellfire. The Quran is full of verses which say the majority of the people are misguided. So it's not about majority or minority. The question is, do the actions which we are doing accord with the divine text? I think you'll find that our actions do. And I challenge them to name me one verse of the Quran or one narration of the Prophet which contradicts with anything that we say. I can name you several which are against what they are doing nowadays.
Let's talk about the volatile atmosphere in the United Kingdom at the moment. The government has troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, and back at home in the United Kingdom there is a rise in Islamophobia. If your aim is to give a voice to the Muslim people who are suffering abroad, do you accept in any way that you're causing suffering to Muslim people in the United Kingdom by your actions, by giving a rise to the demonisation of Islam?
You know, I think that this is a really absurd question. I'll tell you why. The government are occupying our land. Therefore, they are provoking the Muslim community here and abroad, creating hatred towards Islam and Muslims on the one hand and creating animosity against them. On the other hand, they had the most draconian measures in Britain. In Britain, they can hold someone for 28 days without any trial, without any charge. And in this country as well, by their own law, the European Union said the stop and search measures that they have, last week they said they're completely